The system, ladies and gentlemen, is melting down, and a lot of people are going to melt down with it. Don't let it be you. It's Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. Dow Jones down today, S&P down, NASDAQ all down. What's really shocking here, ladies and gentlemen, is why didn't the markets really get hammered today? And I say this because we got the inflation numbers, and they were actually a little worse than expected. Consumer prices rose 8.5% in the month of March, slightly hotter than expected. And yet, the Dow Jones was up 2/3 of the day. We should have seen markets absolutely crumble today with this news. All while real workers' earnings down 0.8% for the same month. So we have inflation going up, wages going down, yet markets pretty much flat today. Dow Jones down only 90 points on this news. I don't know what kind of news it's going to take to really flatten these markets, but in reality, things out there are continuing to get worse. While today there were people on some of these financial channels telling you and I that we are now at the peak of inflation, that from here on out, inflation is going to improve, things are going to get better, and that you're going to be paying less for goods and services. Inflation surged 8.5% in March. Here's what Americans plan to cut as prices continue. This on CNBC today, and they did a survey. Here's what they're planning to cut because of this inflation, the cost of gasoline. 52% are going to be cutting back on dining out. So what kind of ramifications is this going to have on the U.S. economy and on the restaurant industry when 52% of people on this survey or in this survey say they're cutting back going out to eat? 42% are cutting back on driving. That means less people are going to go to the store, less people go out to eat, less people are going to go out and shop. Not good. 40% will cancel a trip or vacation. This is terrible for leisure and hospitality and tourism. 36% will cancel a monthly subscription. 26% are going to delay buying a car. 20% say they will delay buying a home. 16% say they are taking on credit card debt to cover expenses. And 12% said they're just skipping their bills, just not paying. So I don't know where the light is at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what's going to turn things around, but reading what I'm reading right now and just reading the data that's out there that's very manipulated, things seem like they're only going to get worse. So I don't know where some of these economists are getting this information that they believe that we're at the height of inflation right now, at the peak, and that it's going to improve. I hope it does. I really hope that they're right and that I'm wrong. But comment down below. Is inflation peaking right now? Are we going to see things begin to settle down and inflation rate go down, or is it going to continue to surge? Rising inflation has made it more expensive to eat at home. Here's how much grocery prices have increased. Another article from CNBC today. Flour up 14.2%, butter up 14%, meat and poultry up 13.8%, milk up 13.3%, fresh fruits up 10.1%, bread 7.1%, fresh vegetables 5.9%. How in the world are people with kids doing this? I have no idea. If you have kids, God bless you. My heart goes out to you. This has got to be so difficult. But again, is inflation going to improve? I was just watching the television here about 15 minutes ago, and I guess now they're going to legalize E85 fuel during the summer. I guess in most states, E85 fuel is banned during the summer months. So what we're going to do now to bring down, supposedly bring down the cost of gasoline is we're gonna allow E85 sales over the summer. Now, most of you know, in order to produce E85, it takes corn. We make E85 fuel out of corn. So we hear about the food crisis, the food shortage, the shortage of grain to feed animals so that we can produce meat and pork. So what are we going to do? We're going to use corn in order to make fuel. I don't get it. So we have a food shortage, a food crisis. So we're going to use our food, like corn, in order to produce gasoline during the summer. Do you think that that's really going to bring down fuel prices where you live? I guarantee you, it's not going to do anything where I live. It's not barely going to put a dent in the price of gasoline, guaranteed. Stocks rebound and hope inflation is peaking. The Dow Jones was up about 2/3 of the day today because traders were focusing on the core reading of inflation, which excludes food and energy costs, the two most important things that we use on a daily basis. We eat every day, we use fuel every day to live. Core CPI increased 0.3% in March, below the estimate 0.5%. So this is the reason that they gave that the markets were up most of the day. I guess this is the reasoning why we didn't see markets crumble today, because core CPI increased only 0.3% instead of 0.5%. So it was bad, but not as bad. So that's why the markets didn't crash today. So everything's going to be okay because used car prices came down while the cost of gasoline went up, while the cost of housing went up, while the cost of food went up, and literally the cost of everything went up. But because used car prices came down a little bit, everything's going to be okay, and that's great news for the markets. I mean, this is the nonsense we are being fed on a daily basis. The economiccollapse.com, out of control inflation is absolutely eviscerating America's rapidly shrinking middle class. Somebody wrote me the other day and said the middle class is fine and it's not shrinking. Again, ignorance is bliss, my friends. 25 basis points, that was our last rate increase. 25 basis points, think about that, while we are watching this economy being eviscerated. I think at this point, me personally, let me know your thoughts, but I think the Fed right now has to raise rates 1 percentage point for every Fed meeting this year. I think this 25 basis point thing, 50 basis point thing, it's not going to do nothing. It's a drop of water in a swimming pool. We must be raising rates 1 full percentage point. They must stop caring about the stock market and the housing market and begin to care about you, me, the economy, and this currency, the US dollar, or we're going to continue down this path. 66% of all Americans right now in this country are living paycheck to paycheck. As everything is becoming more expensive, ladies and gentlemen, expect consumer debt to keep rising. People are going to continue digging bigger holes by using the credit cards to pay for essentials, to pay for the gasoline, to pay for the rent, to pay for the food. They're digging a hole that they are not going to be able to get out of. U.S. credit card debt right now, $1.06 trillion and climbing. We look at office occupancy in America, it's down 60%. And people believe everything is okay. We've got over 100 million people not in the labor force. Debt and deficits just skyrocketing. And I'm watching the television today, and they're saying that we're at the peak. This is it. Everything's going to be better now. Based on what? The Fed is so late in its attempt to fix this mess. It's like the Titanic captain ordering lifeboats after the ship already sunk. The hens have hatched, ladies and gentlemen, and they are coming home to roost. Fed balance sheet has climbed 10 times since 2007. 10 times the level since 2007. 1980 debt was at $908 billion. Today, we are exceeding $31 trillion. And the Fed has raised the Fed index to 25 basis points. 25 basis points. The Fed should have come out today and raised rates today. Emergency Fed meeting, raise rates today, 1 percentage point. We've got, I think, about 2 weeks to the Fed meeting where they're going to raise 50 basis points. Maybe they'll get a little braver and raise it 75 basis points. Please pardon the wind. I'm outside here. We're getting a little bit of a breeze. Hope it's not too bad. But the Fed is so late to the party, And what can happen in the next 2 weeks? I mean, we got another 2 weeks. I see nothing but inflation increasing over the next 2 weeks. So when they do raise, say, 50 basis points, we're still so far behind, and we're falling farther behind literally daily. Wolfstreet.com, whoosh, dollars purchasing power goes to heck as services inflation takes off. Inflation continues to spike, ladies and gentlemen, and rates continue to stay near 0%, and the Fed still holds $9 trillion on its balance sheet in assets. Now they're saying instead of May, maybe they'll start shrinking it in June. When's it going to happen? They are delaying this process because they know what's going to come once they begin to do it. I do believe the Fed is going to raise rates. I do believe they're going to begin to shrink the balance sheet, not because they want to, because they have to. They're forced to. There's no going back, ladies and gentlemen. And once they start, I don't think there's any reversing course. The Fed printed, get this, $4.8 trillion over the past 2 years to repress long-term interest rates and to produce the biggest wealth disparity ever. Inflation's not going anywhere anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen. And all of this wealth disparity, all this money that went to the top of the pyramid, you paid for it. I paid for it. And we're going to pay for it every day for a very, very long time now through inflation. Every time you go to the pump, just remember, you're paying for somebody's private jet, somebody's gigantic luxury yacht, somebody's massive penthouse in Manhattan, somebody's $10 million a year on Wall Street. You're paying for it every time you go to the pump, every time you go to the grocery store. That group at the very, very top got extremely wealthier on top of the wealth they already had. And they can thank you because you're paying for it now through inflation. And there are still people so naive, so dumbed down, so ignorant, they do not see what's happening. Saying that the middle class is not disappearing, the middle class isn't shrinking, the economy's on fire, the economy's growing, the economy's doing great, it's healthy. I don't know where these people get gasoline. I don't know where they shop for their groceries, but I'm reminded daily, every time I eat, every time I go to a store, every time I go to the pump, I'm reminded daily who's paying for all this. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. In closing, a couple positives. Gold up today, silver up today, which I think is going to we're going to continue to see this. Now, are we going to see it come down at some point? Yes, of course. There will be volatility. Remember, they are two of the most manipulated assets on planet Earth, and they will be until they no longer are. When they do begin to lose control, when these central banks are forced to rely on those gold and silver vaults that they have, they're going to do the opposite. They'll begin pushing the prices on purpose, intentionally pushing the prices of gold and silver up. So to me, it's a great time to buy two of the most undervalued assets on planet Earth, especially gold. But gold and silver, I mean, silver's going along for the ride, but silver had a nice day today. Gold had a very nice day today. And as long as the Fed is going to raise rates 25 basis points and 50 basis points with inflation soaring, gold and silver are going to continue going up. And at some point, they're going to have a breakout. And as long as this Fed continues to stay behind the eight ball, they are going to just literally wreck these markets. They're going to continue wrecking the economy. And I don't give financial advice, but this is the time to be holding real things. Real things like gold, like silver, like barterable items, having food, having water, having security, having medicine, vitamins, trauma kits, boots, jeans, you name it. You think about what you would need if the lights went out for 2 weeks. What would you need to survive? You know, do you have a way to heat up your food? Do you have enough water? Can you filtrate water? Me personally, I have a couple Berkey systems. I have a jet boil to heat up water to put into emergency food. And you better have a way to protect all of this stuff. Crime is absolutely out of control. We saw what happened today in New York, and they're still looking for the suspect. But this stuff is going to get real wild. It's going to continue to get very, very chaotic. And as long as people are still eating, even though it's costing more, people are able right now to tolerate gas prices and food prices because they have 8, 10, or 12 credit cards. They still have some money that they pulled out of their homes that they're having now to use to survive on. But when the credit cards run out or the credit limits get cut or completely shut off, what are people going to do? I mean, what are they going to do? And as I've said many times, people you know and people you don't know, people you know and don't know are going to show up to your house for help, for food, for water, for money. What are you going to do? These are things we better start asking ourselves. So it was another ugly day, in my opinion, on Wall Street, but they did everything they could to make sure that it didn't get out of control. I mean, inflation, double the rate of inflation. I think now you can easily say that inflation is 17%. They say it's 8.5. I'm sure shadowstats.com is probably going to put it around 17% now. It's definitely over 16.05. I'd say now we're between 17 and 18%. Where can this go? How bad can it get? It could get really, really bad. And we look at what's happened to other countries. We look at the inflation in Germany. We look at the economy in Venezuela, what's happened in Brazil, what happened back in Zimbabwe, and what's happening currently. You look at Lebanon. You look at what's happening around the world with crazy inflation, inflation running out of control, food shortages. Are you prepared? Are you prepared? So many people still believe it cannot happen here. It can't happen here. That is the most ignorant type of thinking you could have, to say that it can't happen here. Just look back at what has happened over the last 12 months and say that it can't happen here. I mean, think about what has transpired over the last 12 months. Anybody that says that we cannot see major food shortages, that we cannot see a runaway inflation, that we can't see fuel shortages, that we can't have our whole world turned upside down, these people who think like this are 110% ignorant. Do not listen to people like this. Be your own central bank. Be your own thinker. Be as self-sufficient as you can. Get out of the system the most that you can right now. Be as self-reliant and as self-sufficient as you can be. The system, ladies and gentlemen, is melting down, and a lot of people are going to melt down with it. Don't let it be you.